Alzheimer's. Head. 5 minutes.
I'm logging in now.
Michelle is less anxious. She feels better. You know, she feels she can part of her post-COVID problems. She's got the brain fog. She can't do it. You know, and she just thinks with John about an hour later. She's speaking complete sense. You know, and if she's going to get an email, that's what she's like.
Hey, Travis. Oh, make sure I'm not muted.
Hi, Laura. I'm here.
I see your name. It looks like you and I are it at the moment, but we still have a few minutes.
Okay, I'm going to mute it and move into the conference room.
Sounds good. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Trying to get up some things to speak to.
I added all the maps to the folder, So if you go there,
Yeah,
it's supposed
I
to
see
have
that.
everything.
You did a great job. So prepared. I even read your summary. It's great.
Oh, thank you. Not ready yet. It's missing tonight.
No, but it looks good. It's so far so good. Travis, are you in your office yet?
Yes, Robert and I are both here in the conference room.
Hey, Robert. So far, we don't have anybody online, so we'll wait. We'll give them a little bit of time to get on. Sometimes they have trouble signing on, figuring it out. So we'll give them a few minutes. But typically what we do is open up with kind of an explanation. And then we allow y'all to make do you have any things you want to share on the screen, or you want me just to share the files that we have?
You're welcome to share the files that I had sent. I sent Sarah a color.
I have that one, yeah.
And
Just kind of a hand drawn, right?
that's correct. That's where we're working from at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm happy to speak to some of the items that are on that. It looks like maybe some people are attempting to.
So I'll explain all of that and then we'll. It actually looks like Heather's iPhone. Heather, you got your camera.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my camera off.
I see
I'm struggling.
So I see somebody with the initial CT. Who is that? Do you mind?
Yeah, I'm a resident on Aransas Pass.
Yes, sir. What is your name?
Is that material to the discussion?
No, I just like to make record of who attended. That's all. And I report that to P&Z and council. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I'll just put CT down.
Yeah, I'd prefer to remain anonymous. It's not hard for you to go and look up the tax rolls and figure out exactly who I am.
All right. Well, I won't go to that much trouble, but it's fine. We're just going to wait a minute because right now you're it. And I kind of thought maybe we'd have some more folks joining us. So we'll give them a couple, maybe 2 more minutes. And if not, then we'll just get started, if you don't mind waiting a minute.
And Laura, is Heather staff?
Heather is staff. Yeah. Heather, that's Heather Wood.
Tell by the commercial grade carpet, I see.
That's our carpet.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Short would be joining us because he called.
Yeah, I thought Jack would be on.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm texting him now.
Oh, good. I was going to do the same. Maybe I should give him a call, 'cause- Oh, let's see. Mr. Short,
Afternoon.
how are you? I'm gonna wait for you to get settled and then we'll get started. Unless you're ready.
I'm ready.
I kind of just see the top of your head there.
Well, I've missed you, Laura.
I'm sure you have.
It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So this evening, we're going to talk about the 128 Aransas Pass, I'm sorry, 128 River Road property. No, it's Aransas Pass. Sorry about that. Jack, this is across from your development, and I've got Travis Robertson and Robert Thornton on the line as well. And so what we'll do is I'll give you a little bit of background on what I know as far as the project, and then I'll let the developers speak to it, what their plan is, and then give everybody a chance to ask questions and so that they can respond to that. Now I'm going to share my screen real quick. Listen, we'll try. Here we go. Can everybody see my screen?
No, not yet.
Should be shared. Technology, man. All right, let me try it. There we go. See, Jack. Here we go. Now can you see my screen?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, good. So the property that's under consideration for rezoning is currently an R2M, which is a residential zoning. And the property owner developers are requesting a C2 zoning, which it corresponds to the other commercial zonings along the front River Road. The plan that they're considering, and this is just a rough sketch because they still have to do all the engineering for drainage, detention, how they're going to lay out their parking, see what rules and regulations there are in place. So this is just a rough draft, what they're proposing. And I'll let them speak to this in more detail right now. Some of their thoughts for the project are perhaps a restaurant and office spaces, and potentially these buildings in the back may be short-term rentals on the backside. So that's kind of a high-level discussion. Travis or Robert, do you want to kind of take over from here, and then we'll let everybody ask some questions?
Sure, I think I'm unmuted now. Okay, so as you can see, the yellow are either existing or new improvements as planned, with a sort of an open space out on the River Road and Aransas Pass corner, which would be another future potential building site, correct, in that area. The small yellow just to the right of the cursor right there is the existing rock structure home that would be maintained, restored somewhat, and really used to tell the story of this property. The existing entrance is in that vicinity shown of that 25-foot entrance. However, obviously it's not that wide currently, but the thought is to create a spot to where the traffic and the parking usage for it can obviously come in off of Aransas Pass and come into the interior of the complex. Go back to the site plan there for me.
There you go.
So the four yellow structures on the right-hand side would be small, I would call them home-like structures. The design, at least, is somewhat based off of, say, the front. If you're familiar with our project that's on Blanco Road across from the post office, there's an old historic home there at the Schwartz Homestead that would be similar in scale and shape and sizing and sort of the historic nature. There'd be some additional little small outbuildings, the little red square that you see. There's an existing old chicken coop over there that we would probably sort of restore, block, and create part of the ambiance. All of this parking may or may not be developed then at that time. What we were trying to show was where future parking would go for the complex. There's still some discussion. This is currently 4 lots, and what we show here would actually be 2 lots, one larger lot and one smaller lot, with an access to the entire complex through the singular drive. This gives a River Road frontage spot without some of the complications and frankly traffic challenges that River Road properties that we see. This being C2, we, in discussion with the city, obviously is consistent with the River Road Overlay District and the design intended uses for the River Road Overlay properties and what the city and neighbors would like to see as far as potential use. And we hope this does it in a scale and historic nature that also brings charm and value to the neighborhood. So
Great.
questions, Robert, if you have anything to add, feel free to add.
Well, the only other comment I'd have is that we wanted those 4 buildings on the right side there that you see, we wanted to kind of transition. We know there's residences back behind, down the street, a duplex right behind us. And we wanted to be able to make a nice, easy, smooth transition from a hard commercial corner over to a residential product. And so that's the reason why we came up with those 4 buildings there. Those represent 1,000 square feet each. So they're very modest in size and make a really nice transition of scale and of use. And you know, whether they were very small offices or Airbnb type spaces, but very historic in nature, like Travis mentioned, aesthetically. So.
Any other comments or questions, Laura, from either you or Jack or CT?
No, I'll just, I don't have anything, but this is just surrounding zonings. And as you stated, this is a duplex here. We can go to the Google Earth and kind of look and see what's down the street, but I know CT probably is well aware of what's down there, and I know Jack is as well. So I don't know that we need to go into that detail. Normally we would kind of show that stuff to folks, but if you live there, you already know what you got surrounding you. Now the commercial zoning, the C2, you know, they have a list of uses that are allowed. So this could change up somewhat. Travis and Robert could allow office uses. So we're not approving a site plan. The short-term rentals are allowed by right in the River Road Overlay District. So they don't have to come back for a special use permit for that. It would be covered under the zoning and the overlay. So everything they've kind of mentioned for this site are permitted uses in the C2 and the River Road Overlay District.
Hey, Laura, this is CT.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. You're saying that in the new C2 overlay that mixed use short-term rental is already approved in that. Is that correct?
Not in the C2, in the River Road Overlay, they are allowed uses. Is that correct, Sarah?
It says it's special need or special request.
That's
So in the
Yeah.
C2, it would typically be a special use permit, but in the River Road Overlay District, that this property, so
Yes,
you've
you're
got,
correct, Laura.
okay. So on top of this current zoning, it's the same on Mr. Short's property as it is for the other commercial properties going down River Road. There's an overlay district on top of it that allows some additional uses that wouldn't be allowed in a typical C2. You'd have to go through special use. When P&Z and council went through the approval with the Unified Development Code, they felt like the downtown area, which kind of includes this walkable area to the whole to River Road and downtown the park and so forth, should allow short-term rentals by right.
I'm sorry, walkable? You don't
Yes,
have
sir.
sidewalk there. Your sidewalk's on the south side of the road. You're gonna go in there and make your customers jump a 4-lane road? There's no easy access for that. There's no sidewalk. So that whole pedestrian traffic is moot. There's no sidewalk here. Okay.
So when I refer to walkable, the River Road District is considered walkable to the downtown area. Sidewalks aside, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I meant by walkable. It's just a distance measurement.
Okay. Well, so there's no sidewalks there. Here's the thing that you said short-term rental. Okay. Airbnb, you said specifically, I believe it was one of the other gentlemen on the call.
They're
Okay.
kind of interchangeable. Yes, sir.
Airbnb is a lot different than a bed and breakfast. When I talked with Daphne, she said that there was a bed and breakfast discussion. Airbnb is not a bed and breakfast. It's a transitory rental. You don't have any supervisory. All you have is people coming and going at their leisure. We already have 8 of the 11 residences on Aransas Pass that are rental properties. We already have enough crime on this Aransas Pass, this one block, to choke a horse. 2 Mondays ago, on the 16th, the home next to me was burglarized. And so now you're going to bring in more transitive people just in and out, running around. There's plenty of other commercial spaces on River Road with which to develop that are better suited for this. I mean, good Lord, what's the matter with the stuff that Octagon has right there off of River Road, Pecan and Pecan and Turner? What's the matter with those? Why do you have to come in here and take something that is good residential to turn it into something that there's plenty of already that's closer in, that's better for pedestrian traffic, has a doggone sidewalk, and it has views of the river? There's no view of the river here. This whole thing is just, I don't understand it. So I'll be quiet and I'll let you opine.
Travis or Robert, you want to speak to the short-term rental aspect that you're considering?
Speak to that. And CT, I don't know you. I don't know if you're familiar with any of the projects that we have completed around town. The word Airbnb, whether it's actually on an Airbnb, that was a generic term that I believe Robert used for short-term rental.
Mm-hmm.
Have, first of all, none of the projects that we do from a caliber standpoint would be a low-end transitory type person. It's also possible that those would be used as short or long-term business rentals. Someplace that has a 6-month or a year for a small niche boutique type, say an attorney, a financial planner, with 2 of them, perhaps a high-end place that people stay a month or 2 that come into town. Perhaps the part of this office complex, or if there is a restaurant on the corner, and people come in to enjoy town and stay a month. This is a much different place than rent the cheapest place you can, or whatever it may be. I believe that if you will look at the projects that we do and the time we take to invest in them, every single one has been, I believe, used to better the neighborhood, the community, relationship, and is extremely well thought out. And so this is going to be the same. I do think that there is walkability in the neighborhood, all to the trail as well. I'm working on some other projects to actually create more trail entrance up the road on Ebner. I do hope that there's a way you can get from the parking lot here on the west side, potentially to even walk down to a space. I actually just walked it a couple weeks ago. On the north side of River Road, there is actually a space there that you can walk all the way up to where the Dodging Duck is on that side. I am integral as well in communication with the city of Boerne on how to improve walkability, bikeability, and and create the lowest impact, highest use, best value for this area. So I believe that you'd be proud, and it would actually help you living across the street, that you'd like to come home and see that every single day, and hope it'd be a place that would, improve your livability as well by the way that we would do this project.
Well, looking across at a big development of commercial buildings and whatnot right off my front door, rather than a nice pastoral scene, is not what I would consider nice. Okay, I don't know where you grew up. I didn't grow up in the big cities. I grew up in the country, and having open space is one of those things. Speaking of, so you're talking about going in there and putting a restaurant in this corner, I guess a quarter acre right in front of Daphne's house, correct? Is that where you would put the restaurant?
Yes, sir. As I mentioned and again, we're not saying specific use here. So it's designed in such a way that the blank area that you see could be an office or a restaurant. However, as Robert mentioned, the scale of the buildings you see in front of your house, if I'm correct that you live directly across the street, is that they're not, quote, as you mentioned, large commercial buildings. The intent is actually that the scale of those, if you drive to the post office and look at the scale of the small home that sits in front, then I believe it will help you to realize that that's a single story, small scale, looks very historic in nature, that you would actually enjoy that.
Well, you completely misunderestimate me. I would not, because I would like to have a nice open field to a big development of any sort. So
I can appreciate.
Okay, so you're going to go in there. You're going to put all this concrete. It looks like you got about a third of this entire space that's going to be covered in concrete. Where's your water retention, your rainwater recovery, your green space? Where is that going to be?
Oh, there's.
So depending, I'll speak a little bit to that. Depending on what they end up with here, they have to provide drainage detention. It's a requirement of our regulations. So
Very well.
once
Yep.
everything's laid out, then we identify those sites, how the water flows on the site and so forth. And I don't know that they've gotten to the engineering part of this yet. It's still conceptual, but Travis, you can answer how deep into this you've gotten so far. And just for reference, this is what Travis is talking about. This is another, it's actually something that they kept, and this is the area that he's talking about, that they developed this Schwartz homestead off of Blanco Road. If you want to drive by and take a look at it, you can.
Very well worth it. Thank you.
You bet.
Now, CT, obviously, it's not pastoral or an empty field. You think to try and defend that there should be no development, that's not possible. A new home's going across the street from me right now that I'm not building. And I'm friends with the builder and have talked and given input and have a wonderful relationship. I think as Bernie residents, what I'm doing, trying to do CT, and what Robert and I are doing, and frankly, our mission is we're not big city developers. I grew up in the country. What we are trying to do is design and develop things that feel good as a Bernie resident, right? Because like it or not, this town is going to really develop fast. I have spent a whole lot of time and effort trying to create so that we can create some places that have character and charm and proper scale and scope and architecture. And I don't always like the developments that are even in the area. But I believe that if you research a little bit what we've done, it will at least bring some ease to, if it can't be an empty field, that it's a pretty good solution. We're not even to an engineering phase. Obviously, we have to go through each step one at a time. The first thing is simply zoning. And then Laura will be amending this plat, which is actually these are original platted lots from way back early 1900s.
Right.
So we have to go through each step at a time, but we're actively working with Bernie and staff on something that we think will work with the River Road corridor. Do you have anything to add?
So is the purpose of this discussion to go in there and gauge whether it's going to be a big hassle for y'all to go in there and plop in these Airbnb / whatever, call them rental units, and then plop in a restaurant with all the requisite problems that come along with it? By the way, I've been a restaurant owner for 15 years. I know it well. Is that what you're just trying to gauge how much hassle it's going to be for you to do?
No, no. So the purpose of these bond meetings it's public outreach. So when we have somebody that requests a zoning in any area of the city of Bernie, we suggest to them that they do a public outreach and just explain their project. And that's why they get initial feedback. I think Travis and Robert already own the property. I'm not sure. Doesn't really matter, but the bond meeting is to hear from folks like you, from Jack Short across the street, to hear what concerns might be for the proposed zoning, and have the developer be able to explain kind of what they're trying to do there. It's public outreach, so that we're not having this kind of conversation at a P&Z meeting, because a lot of people don't want to speak in front of the commission or in front of council, and they're much more comfortable speaking in this kind of scenario than they are in public. So it's a little more personal interaction. You're able to say what you feel, what you are, and that's great. That's what this meeting is for. Really.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to hog it. I know Jack probably has some other salient points to go in there and bring up. The last thing you've mentioned a restaurant there in that little corner. I doubt that you'll be able to fit a restaurant in the required parking for it. So that means that, oh, well, we can't do a restaurant. How about let's do a bar? Is that in the plans at all?
Sarah, is a bar or a brewery, those are permitted in the overlay district, correct? For C2? Can you check real quick?
Yes, they are.
Production, bar, wine bar.
So
Yes,
those
mixed-use
are
building,
permitted
mixed-use
uses.
blend.
Whether they plan to do that or not, I don't know, but it's something you certainly have to keep in mind when anybody is rezoning a property.
Right. Okay. Well, as I said, I was a restaurant owner for 15 years. I know that your garbage containers stink to high heaven. And so I'm looking at this going, okay, well, where are you going to put those garbage collections? Are you going to put it in the middle? Are you going to put it over? Where are you going to place those so that it doesn't waft in? I mean, I already get the wafting in from the doggone sewage treatment plant a quarter of a mile away here. So where are you going to put those? That is consideration. If you want to be a good neighbor, you definitely need to make sure that that is a well thought out process and planned appropriately.
I will say we do require screening, and when they're laying out their site plans, we try to take that into consideration. Sometimes they're surrounded on 3 sides, so you're right, they've got to put it somewhere, right? But it is something we try to work with them on to try to have as little impact as possible. Of course, it's got to be accessible to the trash trucks as well.
Yep.
And also,
Which means
if the
it's gonna
case
be
is to
on-
be a bar,
Mhm.
so if it's a bar, we have like a limit size restriction. So for the
2,500
River
square
Road
feet, I
district,
think.
Mhm.
yes. So no bigger than that. No.
Okay. Travis or Robert, you want to speak to any of that, or you want to hear from Jack? You're muted. There you go.
Laura, did you ask if we want to speak to
Any of that last stuff.
any of that? I mean,
I mean, he was asking about the bar. I don't think it's certainly not something you've mentioned, but it is a permitted use there. So I think I've answered the question.
the site plan that we have is sort of as far as we've gotten at this point. Obviously, you know us and how we do things, but we're seeking the zoning and the site plan, we obviously take neighbors and things into account. If I'm correct, I believe there's an existing dumpster across the street from this property that sits out in the open currently, CT, that you drive past every day.
Yes, sir, and that is not food waste. That
Yeah,
is
you're talking
solid,
about commercial.
Right.
completely different.
Yes, sir. I understand. Yeah.
So Jack, did you have any questions or comments you wanted to make?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Let me say that Robert and Travis, I am familiar with a lot of the stuff you've done, and I've heard nothing but good comments about it. And I think you've done a good job. There are two questions I have, and these are a concern. When we put in this urgent care across the street, there was an awful lot of concern about the noise that would be there from ambulances, which don't really come to an urgent care. They're not allowed to come there. We've had very few, and there's an awful lot of noise along 46. So, but that was an issue that we dealt with. My question is, and what I'm concerned with medical facilities next door would be if you put in a restaurant and you have a band out there playing, there are some places around town where they get very loud. And I would hate for that to disturb the tenants that we have next door. You've got a C2. I called and spoke to Sarah. I thought you were going to be C2 anyway, just because of where it was. I didn't know you had to go through all of this to get to use it. But that's my concern would be if we get, and there's some places I've been to in Bernie where I had to get up and leave. It was so loud. So I know it bothered the neighbors over there. That's our concern because it might interfere with our tenants. What Travis said there was or Curtis said about the garbage and stuff. That is our dumpster out there. We can't cover that up because it's a big dumpster. And I wish I could get smaller ones out there because when waste management comes to pick it up, they're tearing up the asphalt and they run over our meters and things. But if we close it up, they can't get to that dumpster to pick it up with their trucks. And then the other issue, if you would speak to it, would be the parking. If you have a restaurant there, there's going to be, unless you've got enough parking spaces, and I couldn't count the number, maybe overflow onto the street. And that could interfere with the driveways getting in and out. I'm sure you guys have good intentions and you're going to do the right thing. My concern is when you sell it to somebody else. And I'm also directing this to you, Laura. How do we prevent this loud noise and the parking issue?
So I'll speak to both kind of a high level. There are parking requirements with regard to, how many parking spaces they've got to have. So they may decide on the spot if they've got office spaces and short-term rentals, or those are office spaces. The parking requirements are going to change for those. Short-term rentals, of course, there's little parking requirements, but if those are offices, it's going to be based on square footage. So all of that's calculated out. They have to meet all that criteria. They have access off of Aransas Pass. I don't believe TxDOT will allow access off of River Road. So I think what they've got is where the parking is going to be, where people will be coming in and out. It's right there off of Aransas Pass. They've got to meet fire code, all of that stuff. But until they come in with a firm plan for development, I can't really give you any definites. Only what Travis and Robert are speaking to right now. With regard to the noise, I will tell you I'm working with a noise committee right now that's assessing noise, specifically River Road noise issues. And we put out a survey not too long ago and asked questions about what noise issues do you have? And believe it or not, most of the comments that we got weren't about the music, which I was surprised. But I think that's, I think that it's the folks across the creek that are mostly impacted by the music, but most of it was traffic noises. So they're kind of leaning towards looking about how can we slow down traffic on River Road so that it's not as noisy and so forth. We do have a noise permit now that we didn't have before, and it's anybody that has live music or piped in music, outdoor music, has to show us how they're planning on mitigating that noise. Now, there's not a lot of teeth to it right now because all we're doing is asking the question, but it gives us an opportunity to work with them about positioning of speakers or screening of an area. You don't want to block off, you don't want to block off River Road, but especially where you can see the creek. But there are ways to screen, which I think Dodging Duck has done a pretty good job of. They've kind of been more of the example that we'd like to follow, where they've provided screening that's this sheer shield that they've got there. We worked with somebody on Main Street that's planning on putting a little band stage in back of their building, and we had them put up a solid wall on one side of the stage so that that noise wouldn't go out into the neighborhood. So we're working in that direction. It'll probably take us a little while to get it right, but when you've got outdoor kind of activity, a lot of the negative comments about people talking and laughing, you know, too, and I don't know how to control that. So I think you're gonna, as things develop, you're gonna have some noise that comes from it, but we're trying to regulate it.
Is
Still
the city
baby
ordinance
steps.
still 70 decibels at 200 feet from the emanation? Is that correct?
Oh, it's less than 200 feet. I think it's during certain hours, during daytime hours. Sarah may know this better than I do. I think it's 75 decibels and then 65 in the evening. And it's within 100 feet of the, or 50 feet of the property
From the property
line.
boundary.
It's 50 feet of the
50
property
feet.
line. Okay.
Yes.
So that still is, that is still the regulations right now. So honestly, if you have noise that's bothering you, unfortunately, what you have to do is call the police. They come out with their meters and test the sound and can ticket, or they give a warning. Typically, we try to be a friendly city and we warn people. The other thing we've talked about doing is actually requiring decibel meters to be put. This is assuming y'all even have any kind of outside activity, but we'll assume you can, certainly, I know you can. So you will have them put a meter that reads it, and it's sort of this red flashing light that can be annoying, especially if you're a business owner, that will flash red if you get above a certain decibel. And that's on your property, or at least on your property line. So that's what we're talking about doing as far as monitoring it. We haven't gotten that far yet, but I think shortly we will be revising the noise regulations and put more teeth into the permitting process. Hopefully that kind of answers. It's not 100% solution right now, but we're working in that direction. Travis, you want to talk about the mobility on the site and parking? I kind of covered the standards. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Can you bring up the site plan back on your computer?
Oh, I thought I had it. Sorry. I had it. I have it up. Let's see, share screen. There you go. Can you see it?
No, I cannot see it yet.
Takes me a minute. Now, can
Now
you
we
see it?
it?
Can
Now we
see
can.
it.
Great.
Screen, I can see small for some reason. There we go.
Bigger?
Sure. So as River Road sort of sites go, and we do have quite a bit of parking. I don't remember the actual number that's drawn on here. Was it if it was in the neighborhood of 40? I don't recall if it was that many or not, but I'd have to count them up real quick. But obviously, if this is short-term rentals or something like that, then it's, as Laura mentioned, it's extremely low use. If the 1,000 square foot existing little home that's there, the rock home, don't know yet if that's part of the site to the left or if it's a standalone, but we do believe that we have parking that meets and exceeds the requirements based on that potential. I think we were even just short or just right at medical, if I'm correct. Jack, so that if this, let's say that was some complimentary medical deal out there, that we have adequate spots for that. And the River Road overlay, Laura can speak to, actually has less parking requirements. I believe it's a 50% parking requirement, but I think we exceed that. In addition, I personally have just in the past few weeks sent multiple ideas on potential public parking spaces that could happen. And Jack, I don't know the hours of your businesses across the street there, whether or not that could be if, public parking for River Road or something in the future, or do a deal. But I think things like that, public-private partnerships to bookend parking on either end of River Road and create walkability could be an interesting development idea for River Road as it's built out. I'll have to count. I'm sorry, I don't have the number of parking
Well,
spots.
it doesn't matter because it's going to be based on use and square footage. And since we're not 100% of what that is,
Correct.
we're
But
not
I
going
will.
to know yet.
I don't know of another River Road spot that has this many parking spots
At all, period.
at all, period. Right. I think that the Gretel has 8. I don't know. It's not many at all. And obviously, Dodging Duck uses the city or partially owned city or whatever that lot is behind. But
LCRA.
it's actually part LCRA, I believe. So.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And things are changing back in there as well. We're
Correct.
working on trying to provide some parking.
Can I mention one other thing? The restaurant thing gets thrown around a lot. Laura, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the overlay and the council is desiring to see, as I recall, I saw something to this effect, restaurant and retail along River Road.
Mhm.
This thing may very well be medical stuff, as Travis mentioned, and right there across the street from your property, Mr. Short, where it would complement that. It may very well be office. We don't know at this point. I will tell you that Travis and I have a habit of not looking to squeeze every penny out of a project. You drive around and you see what we've done. We don't maximize investment. We don't look for how to invest as little as we can and squeeze as much as we can out of it. We look for projects that we think our great grandchildren are going to drive by and go, holy smokes, my great granddad built that. We look for projects that little old ladies on the street of Bernie who grew up in here in Bernie will stop us and give us a hug with tears in their eyes and say thank you. And that would be our intention here. And yes, Mr. Short, sure enough, what could a future owner do to this place if we were to develop it and they bought it? I can't control that. But the same goes for your property or CT, your house. We can't control the future of someone who may own your house or your medical complex in the future. What we can control is what we do here and now. And what we do here and now, we want to be proud of. We want you to be proud of. We want our great grandchildren to be proud of. Right. And this project is no different in that regard than any other project we ever take on.
I presume this is Robert Thornton talking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I understand that you have a certain vision for what you think downtown is going to be. My biggest concern in all of this is the commercialization of residential properties, which there's not enough residential properties already. And we continually take more and more residentials away and make them commercial and commercial and commercial and commercial until pretty soon you have like something like Katy, Texas, where everybody has to live in the suburbs because all of the residential properties in the downtown areas and arenas are completely covered up. Second part is you're not going to be able to park anything on Aransas Pass. I'm not sure if you've traveled down Aransas Pass on any given Monday, Tuesday, or Friday, but there are cars all along the road every single day. There is literally 3 cars parked in front of my house every single night. I don't understand where you think you might get extra parking on Aransas Pass, because it's not going to be there. I mean, I count 37 different parking spots here, including a couple of handicaps. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for your needs, and you're not going to be able to park much on Aransas Pass. There's just nothing available. There's guys that come here, they pick up their workers next door, and they leave their car here. And then whenever they get back home, they drive their car back home, and they're here now. So, I mean, I can look out my front door. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars in my front, right outside my front yard. 2 in the front on the western side, 2 in the front on the eastern side. And that's right in front of all of your little 1,000 square foot rental properties. I'm not going to call them Airbnbs or whatever, just rental properties on the north side of the property. So parking is going to be an issue. And basically everybody's complaining about all of the road noise and the traffic noise on River Road. All you're going to be doing, since you can't have an entrance off of River Road, you're diverting that traffic onto our street. And it's just, progress is going to happen. I understand it. I'm just a little bit gun shy, especially when we're asking for a blank check to do whatever we want with the property. We're not saying this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 4 rentals. We're going to do a little rental house here. We're going to do a restaurant, or we're going to do a retail shop, or we're going to do a medical center here. It's just, we want to be zoned for this so that we can do whatever we want with it. And it's a blank check scenario. That to me makes me nervous as hell. I've been through that. So I'm just voicing my concerns.
Yeah, Mr. Thornton and Mr. Robertson, let me make myself clear. I understand that you can't control what whoever buys that may do. My remarks were really addressed more to Laura than to you because of the sound. I know that I can live with the sound of the sirens going up and down River Road. But when I get near these restaurants, and it's right across from the pharmacy, if they don't do something to control the sound, when somebody pulls up to that drive-in window, they will not be able to hear them when they're talking about their prescription. And so it's not addressed to you guys as much as it is to the city.
Right.
And I know that they can put up their walls, but that sound goes over there. So I'm well aware of all of your projects, and I quite frankly think that what you've done in the other places would be good for our property. But the thing that got my attention is the restaurant, and you do have more parking spaces than you would even use, depending on the square footage, to qualify for a restaurant there, because I guess it's like 1 per every 300 square feet, or is it 1 per 200? Because I'm talking about you're cutting them in half. You don't have to have is it 1 per 150 normally, Laura?
Oh, I'm gonna have to double check, Jack. Hold on 1 second.
But anyway, they've got enough. I'm pretty sure it's not on a restaurant. It's like 1 parking space for each 150 square feet. And at 37, you've got enough there, it looks like. But my concern again is just the noise that would emanate out of that place if you put one there.
Right, so that is something that we're trying to address, and we are working in that direction. And it's been because of the live music and so forth. So I think we're getting there. Actually, the committee has been underway. Bryce B.O.N.D is our council member that's been looking into this, and he lives in the area. So he and Bill Bird, who lives across from Dodging Duck and Salvador Dobbs and so forth, are on the committee as well. It's 1 for 100 for the restaurants.
So it's 1 per 200 here.
1 for 100 for restaurants. So in other words, yeah, you're right.
You've
It's
got half the
50%.
spaces here.
Yeah.
So it's 1 per 200.
Right.
So they
Yes.
have ample parking spaces according to the city, but the overflow may not be enough.
Yeah.
That's all I
And
have.
to address CT, you know, here's the thing about zoning, unless it comes with an SUP, which this one does not, there is no, there's no guarantee of what's going to go there, what's on the list that you received, plus the overlay district information. Those are what you have to look at, because ultimately that's what could be built. So, but that's part of the purpose of the meeting, is to have the proposed developer explain the project, but I can't guarantee you 100%. Something could happen and they walk away, and then you have the C2 zoning. I will say that this area on the land use plan does show to be a neighborhood commercial. So the plan for everything on River Road is commercial for future development. Beyond that, though, is residential, and that's what is shown on the land use plan. So encroaching much further than this isn't right now, wouldn't be considered because it or shouldn't be considered because it isn't shown on the land use plan, which is how we're supposed to plan. That's how we're supposed to plan for the future.
Well, again, Laura, let me just say that it's you that I'm talking to primarily here because of that issue. And the rest of this, what they've done every place else, I have no problem with in the whole city. Of course, I'm not living in all those places, but they all look great. So across from us, we're fine with it, with what they're saying.
Great, good to know. So CT, I think we've, and I just see somebody else has joined us, Mr. Wagner. You're muted.
Hey, Laura, yes, Travis Wagner here. I joined late, but just was chiming in and wanted to hear what was going on.
Did you get to see the site plan?
I did, yes.
Okay. Did you want to make any comments or have any questions?
No, I was here just more about hearing what was going on. I've got property just down the street on River Road, so I was more interested about what was being discussed. I know Travis and Robert a little bit, and I know they do good things. So when I saw they were attached to the letter I got in the mail, that was good news to me.
Okay, good to hear. Okay, I think we're kind of wrapping up unless anybody else has got any questions, or Robert or Travis, if you want to add anything. And we just had somebody else join us, Mr. Mackerel, Ray Mackerel. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to comment if they want to.
I also joined late. I own property on Aransas Pass as well. 114 Aransas Pass is a rental property, and just from what I hear, it all sounds good. I don't have any questions at this point.
Okay. Okay, good. Thanks. Travis, Robert, you want to add any comments before we sign off?
I appreciate everybody's involvement in being there. And, Jack, I look forward to working across the street and getting to know you better, CT as well. If that's, I think I've waved at you a couple of times over there, but I'll be there periodically. If you ever see me out, tall redheaded guy, feel free and stop me. I'm happy to shake your hand, talk more, or whatever I can do.
Appreciate it so much, sir. I will.
Yes, sir.
Great. So the meeting is Monday evening. That'll be the public hearing before P&Z. It is a live meeting. If any of y'all want to come and make comments, you're more than welcome to. And then this will go to council after that as a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we will provide a report of comments that were made tonight to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to council both. So they'll get a report on this. It's also being videotaped. So anybody that wants to log in and listen again or look at it again, if any of y'all want to see the whole thing from the beginning, you're more than welcome to go to the website. And on the front of the website, it says bond at the bottom. You click on that, it'll take you to the videos and all the information on the bond meetings. So please feel free to share it or share the information with folks, and maybe we'll hear from you Monday evening.
Laura, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Monday at 6 p.m., the P&Z Council holding at 447. I'm under lockdown currently.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be broadcast or simulcast or dial-in or anything to that?
It is broadcast. I don't think I can, back when everybody was on lockdown, we were able to get everybody in via Zoom, kind of like what we're doing right now. We don't have that opportunity Monday night, but if you want to send me something to provide them, they will have access to this video though. So they're going to hear every comment you made. But if you want to send me something that I can provide them, I'll be glad to do that as well.
They also receive a copy of all the comments. Like if you guys send back the response letter that went with the mailing, they receive a copy of everything that is submitted in the case.
Okay.
Right. So just let me know you on the website. If you go to planning department, you'll see my email there. Sarah's email is there. You can send us something that way. But as I said, they'll see the video, so they're gonna know what your comments were, and they're actually really good about watching these things in advance. And then we'll provide a report as well, so they'll be able to hear what your comments are. But if you want to put something in writing and send it over, we can hand that to them also.
I'll see if I can get a rapid test, see if I'm clear. I should be clear. I mean, it's going to be 9 days, so
good. I hope so. But also know you can always come to city council, which will be, hold on, I can give you a date. Oh, you know what? Send me your contact information. We have new processes now, and we may be able to have the public hearing earlier than we typically would. So I hate to give you a solid date right now, but it'll be at least 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then certainly by then you'll be clear and you could speak at council. That's where the final determination is made anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Travis and Robert, for requesting this meeting. We appreciate it. I'm sure everybody appreciates hearing what the plan is for the site. It's good to see you again, Jack.
Nice to see you as always.
Y'all take care and have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye.